All right, I'm John the braider, everybody knows, and I'm going to braid this horse here. This is a big plow horse. This is a huge pony, humongous pony. I love this kind of horse. And its mane is really thick and long, and everybody asks me on YouTube, how long should a mane be before you braid it, and things like that. And everything I try to say is relative. Here's how I'm going to try to explain this. This is a big plow horse. You don't want to put tiny itty bitty little braids on a big plow horse. You want to make sure that you leave lots of mane and that you can tie the hair up and still put good, decent sized braids in here. And that can be seen on the neck, okay? So you can make a bigger braid by taking bigger sections and still work out to be about 20 twists or so. Or you can take and thin your mane out a lot and shorten it way up and then put braids with tiny little twists. You're basically going to have the exact same braid. It just depends upon what size braid or what gauge braid you like to see on your horse's neck, and it just has to be size appropriate more than anything. Now, this is a clipper blade. I have taken and taped off the bottom because there's two cutouts in here, and if you don't, you can slice your finger or catch your finger on it. But it's got a blade in here, and it's a very fine comb, so what you can do is take a big clump of hair, and you can thin it down to a very small, thin ribbon, and then cut it. All right? Now, when they're really thick and you're just starting, you want to cut it, but you also want to be able to thin it out so there's the exact same number of hairs per square inch. No matter every time you take a 1-inch cut on this mane or a 2-inch cut or whatever, you're getting the same number of hairs per square inch. So what you're going to have to do is learn to feel the right size in your fingers, and you're going to practice. You have to just learn. This is a feel thing. You can't do it any other way. So I'm just going to put a little tension on it, feather it up, and then cut and pull. See, I pulled a few pieces. This is really thin, so you don't need to take a bunch out. I prefer a big, thick wall of braids. No matter what size they are, I like them close and exactly identical with the bottom line. So I pull the mane for that, and I braid the mane according to the neck. Now this one looks like it has just a beautiful neck. So the braids are going to look really nice. You just want to even it up a little bit at first. Okay, see, this is a nice feathered end. Okay, you don't want any sort of bluntness or clumping of the mane. If you grab it like this and you can feel a big thick clump of hair anywhere in there, you're going to have to thin on that spot just a little bit. You go back and forth across it and thin and thin and thin and thin until there's no more thick spot. And that's how you want to prepare a mane to be braided. You know, start at the top, start at the bottom, work your way to the middle. What you want to be able to do is watch your horse. If he's acting like this, he doesn't mind it one tiny little bit. He's not going to object to you working on his neck, so his neck is probably not sore. So he's not going to be tossing his head around. You're going to learn a lot about your horse as soon as you start doing this. He's got no bridle path. Am I allowed to cut a bridle path or no? That's a question, because no bridle path is a pain. It wrecks the braids, it creates a pressure spot, and then they want to rub on it when there's a halter or a bridle on. So it's important to know whether you can do that or not. So now I'm just trying to even out some of these ends a little more consistently to the same length, but not blunting it out at all. I'll grab as wide of a section as I can, feather that out. See how wide that goes? See? It's from a pretty big section and it's all V'd out to my thumb. Then I'll just go up and cut them off. Nice and uniform. So that creates a layered feather throughout the whole mane. You don't want to take just the bottom side. You don't want to just take the top side. You want to go all the way through and evenly in each of the space, the bottom hairs and the top hairs. So when it folds over, lays over evenly. It's starting to look a lot better. And that's it. You just got to keep working at it. Working it evenly short. I kind of like doing bottom to top once I get started because it's a little bit easier to see the longer ones. The thing you have to watch out is sometimes you smack the back of your knuckle, like I just did, and that does kind of sting. It is a sharp piece of steel. Be careful of your hands. They're the only ones you got. Try not to lean back too far and arch your back, because then it makes your back sore like mine does. You always want to make sure your horse is not getting mad if he starts to lay those ears back or make a snaky face. You know, squint his eyes at you, curl his lip a little bit. He's going to tell you he doesn't like it quick. But he's licking his lips. He's standing here. He's not mad about this at all. He thinks we're just going to play beauty shop, which is all we're going to do. Okay. Now see how nice and uniform that looks? Perfect little feather. Kind of runs downhill just a little bit. So we'll just take the bottom off and kind of work the slant a little bit. And it's going to look a little bit short at the bottom because the hair kind of wants to fade away, just growing out. But the more it's trained over with braids, the straighter it'll lay. So to help yourself, if you want to go to the show and braid your own horse, make it look really good, do all this at home 3 or 4 days before you go to the show. Practice braiding him so that he'll just stand nice and quiet. Leave the braids in overnight so that he's used to having the tension on his neck. If he just rubs one spot, then you're saying, hey, maybe I just put a hot spot there. Let me do a better job of making sure I'm tying up and I'm not leaving a clump there. Then you'll start to get to know your horse. If it does have a sore neck or someplace, you'll learn it. And you'll eventually start learning to rub on it to help it release. And the braiding will become a massage, and then your horse will really like it. So I think people lose. There is a bit of a hump right here in his neck. See. Not bad, but a little bit of a one. You can see how this line kind of disappears a little in here. A little bit. But it's not sore or anything because he's not, doesn't bother him. All right, so this is starting to feel real good in my hand. A little tiny bit thick right here on this one spot. So I'll feather some up, reach, pull it out. That's just that one spot. He had a bit of a clump because his neck is really thick. Nice, even bottom. Doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to tie this off anyway. Tie this off anyway. You don't always want to use a brand new blade. It's best to use a dull one that has not been resharpened, because you want to tear and pull a tiny little bit. That helps you create the feather. Is a little bit of teasing, tearing. That's why you like the blade in there, because it can act like a teasing comb and you can just zip those ends right off. Nice feather to it. When the hair gets too thin to be able to, up. Now, since this is a plow horse, not a show horse, how much trouble am I going to get in if I put a bridle path in it? Like right here. It looks like there was one right here. He's going to get another one. Just take our scissors. Okay. Go right in, make a nice straight cut. Thanks, buddy. Sorry, bud. Mr. Horse's neck. He does not like being chopped with nice sharp scissors. Oh, but easy now. Well, it's pulling on his pole, so he's popping a little bit as I pull on him. So, makeshift, it's not trimmed out, but at least you have a bridle path. With some place to put that tag in his neck. Yeah. Good boy. Alright, so then we'll just finish trimming off the top. Helps to not have tons of stuff in your pockets. Be organized. Alright, put your bridle path right in here, flatten it right down. Take the last little bit off at the top. See how it's still slanting down a little tiny bit at the top? You don't want big gawky first couple braids, right by the ears. It makes the head look bad. Lay your arm on it, take all that out. See, there's a good line to this neck.